Hi, it's 43 degrees today according to the Weather Bureau. According to my phone it needs to cool down, and now my Sony video camera has decided that it's too hot as well. My digital thermometer says that it's peaking out at about 78 degrees on my driveway, which is hot enough to cook bacon and eggs for breakfast. I have to be very careful with the low slung catalytic converter on the KTM790. Any of this grass got lodged in it, it would soon be on fire. This is the time of year when they say that only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Though I have recently seen some tourists heading to Central Australia for a ride. Certainly hope they know what they're in for, because it's 50 degrees out there according to the Weather Bureau, and no shade under any trees that I know of. I only hope they all make it safely. The KTM790 on the Christmas toy run, and they had a really good turnout by the looks. Good friend Martin has been out doing a bit of riding the other night, and apparently he fell down, and this is what happened.
Hey Martin, so what's happened to your hand?
Nothing, Ed. I slipped. Slipped on a banana skin.
Was it that football very dangerous, is it? You couldn't tell us a bit more about what actually happened?
Yeah.
You hadn't been drinking, had you?
Yeah, I've been drinking a lot.
Yeah.
Keep your hydration up.
Drugs?
Drugs.
Yeah.
As many as you can have for pain.
You don't think you're a bit too old for this sort of stuff?
I told you I am too old for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And the
too
bike's,
young to die.
the bike's not handling as it should, surely?
Yeah, it's all the bike's fault.
Right, okay. Well, I knew
And I
that.
won't take any discredit this bike, because it wasn't this bike I was on.
It was on the BMW, was it?
It was on. It was on my my 500 KTM.
Not wanting to be put off by Martin's predicament, and also aiming to keep up a little ride fitness, I'm heading out with the Thursday night riders. I was hoping to show you me throwing the 790 up that hill, but unfortunately the camera conked out, overheated. As it's still pretty hot this evening, we're taking it easy and cruising around, doing a bit of exploring of some of the old farming areas and checking out some of the fruit trees that are around this area. The good thing about these long abandoned areas that they're riding at the moment is that they're fairly open, so that, like I said, that little furnace, better known as the catalytic converter, that sits under the rear shock on the KTM 790, not getting tangled up in the long grass and setting the whole bush on fire. From time to time we do find some unusual trees growing out here. And I note that Andrew seems to have developed a new spring in his step.
Very nice.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
The gay riding one. Unusual. You warmed up, Andrew? I'm cooking. We got to get moving. All right. I'm hot. I think we're all hot, especially Jed. He's been running.
And some of these old farm sites that we ride around, you've got to be very careful, because they have wells that are hidden by all the grass that's fallen over the top of them, and some of them have sheets of tin which are very good at concealing the well until you ride your bike down it, and then you're really in trouble, especially if you're on the 790. Unfortunately, the figs are really dry, and the summer heat has really taken its toll on the fig tree. However, amazingly, some of the grapevines have still got grapes that look like they're going to survive. Usually I ride with the traction control and ABS off, and I had forgotten that I'd turned the engine off, which automatically puts traction control back on. And so when I go to give it to lift the front, traction control cuts in and I've lost the front end. I find this a very frustrating feature with the KTM790. My idea is that if I turn it off, I want it to stay off. Unfortunately, Big Brother pokes its nose in and turns ABS and traction control back on for me. This old shed, half hidden by the trees, I bet it has many stories it could tell of the good old days and the fun that they had out here in farm life. We can only imagine what went on. As the afternoon cools and heads into the evening, we continue to ride and explore some of these very interesting back blocks in the middle of nowhere. And check out the LED lighting on the KTM790. At last they've got it right. A good set of lights. I don't know if any other KTM790 riders get this, but often when I pull the clutch in, it feels to me like the cable is twisting inside the outer cable. And maybe I'm just a bit overly sensitive after seeing some of these stories with the KTM clutch disintegrating, or the clutch discs. I know KTM's saying it's clutch abuse, but my thoughts are that if you slip the clutch a lot and it turns blue and burns it out and you end up with no friction discs, yeah, that's probably abuse. But with the disc disintegrating, I would think that's a manufacturer default. But anyway, I guess eventually we'll find out what the truth is. My bike is still a tweak under 10,000 Ks. Happily the clutch is still performing correctly. And the only other thing I've heard is that a couple of people that I know have had problems with the front discs warping. Happily my brakes are still working properly as well.